This is the New York City FC Pregame Live. Tonight, New York City take on Inter Miami for a spot in the MLS Cup Final. And now, here are your hosts, Crooks and Matty Lawrence.
Indeed, the New York City Football Club. Well, they appear to be cherishing the underdog role in the MLS playoffs after knocking off the favored Charlotte FC in 3 games and then eliminating the Supporters Shield champion Philadelphia Union at Subaru Park. And now it's Chase Stadium, as you can see, in Fort Lauderdale. Next year, it'll be Freedom Park, Miami Freedom Park. All games for Inter Miami with Lionel Messi back for perhaps another 2 seasons. He's signed for that many, entertaining us, and we'll see what happens here tonight as it's a knockout game, and New York City in their 3rd Eastern Conference final in the last 5 years, and for Miami, it's their first. And here's my broadcast partner for tonight. That's Matty Lawrence. I'm Glenn Crooks. Great to see everybody. And, Matty, it's been anticipated all week how this might feel and how it might go. And we're closing in on kickoff, which is at 6:15. And I wonder if you have some opening thoughts, considering that New York City, they upset Charlotte with 2 road wins and then win at Subaru Park, which we know hasn't happened very often this year.
Yeah, look, Philadelphia Union are a better team than Inter Miami. They were throughout the season. They finished higher in the table than Inter Miami. Philadelphia are a better all-round team than Inter Miami. But obviously what Inter Miami has is one of the best players in the world that's ever played the game in Lionel Messi. And they have players like Alba and Busquets who are used to pressure, who are used to playing in these type of conditions, which is very, very pressurized. And it's a do or die. You must win to progress. And those guys are used to this. I think that certainly leaves things in their favour. Then add to it the fact that they're playing at home, where they're very comfortable. They don't lose many games at home. They're, I think, the 3rd best team or 4th best team in MLS at home. Look, this is a tough game for NYCFC, obviously. But when you get to this stage of the competition, you've got to beat the best. They've already beaten the best in Philadelphia, and now I think that Inter Miami are probably the next best thing. It's a tough ask, but if you've beaten Charlotte away from home twice, you've beaten Philadelphia away from home once, there is no reason why, if they play to the best of their potential, NYCFC, and Messi dips slightly in his form, there is no reason that NYCFC can't win. If Messi is tip-top, totally on form, I think this team is virtually unbeatable into Miami.
Well, look at some of the things that is working against New York City. And we have seen the quote. It came from Ben Wright in Soccer America. He wrote a story, and he said the following: Miami is a juggernaut, the likes we haven't seen before in the playoffs. Unfortunately for New York, it's almost impossible to imagine anyone stopping them. And that's really based on their last 2 games. Yeah. They shut out Nashville 4-0 and then did the same thing to FC Cincinnati. That was on the road at TQL. Beyond that, it could be the final pro match for 2 global figures, Jordi Alba and Sergi Busquets. As for Lionel Messi, he's got 12 goals in the 4 playoff games, 6 goals and 5 assists overall in this last segment. 12 goal contributions is what I should say in the 4 playoff games. And so that all seems to be working against you as you enter a game like this.
Yeah, Inter Miami are very good. They've got some very good individual players. As I say, as a team, they're not as good as Philadelphia Union. That was proven throughout the whole season. But that's the thing. I think Inter Miami, with those big name players, with them being used to pressure cooker situations, they're very much the favourites here, and they're very hard to beat over a single 90-minute game or 90 minutes plus 30 minutes of extra time. For me, Miami throughout the season, it's hard to stop them scoring, but you knew you'd get chances, Glenn, against them. Anytime you play into Miami, you'll get chances because they're not great in goal and they're certainly not great defensively either. So for me, to now see that Inter Miami are 225 minutes, Glenn, without conceding a goal. They're now not only scoring goals, as you've said, but they're keeping clean sheets as well. And that's very worrying.
And the last time that New York City played against Inter Miami was at Citi Field not long ago in late September. And although the first portion of the match, really, you could almost say the first 70 minutes were give and take, but Miami poured it on. Messi had a couple and ended up beating New York City 4-0. And here was Pascal Janssen addressing that a little bit earlier.
You're coming off a difficult performance against them, even though the game was probably closer than the score would indicate, the one at Citi Field, the 4-0 loss. What are you taking from that? Kevin O'Toole said maybe we respected them too much, and he didn't use the word brave, but is there an expectation that you need to be more brave in this one?
For sure. And it doesn't surprise me that Kevin mentioned that. Against Miami, especially in the first 70 minutes, and like I mentioned just now as well, the first two big opportunities, and they were not small chances, they were big chances, were on our side. But at top level, when you don't put those chances away, or at least one of those two, it can come back at you. And that's what happened in this game. Got us behind before the break. Game was pretty even after the break, and then after 72, 73 minutes, things changed, and they were able to step up another gear, and they showed how good they can be. But like I said, the remarks made by Kevin, they don't surprise me, because it's about having courage and being very brave, especially on the ball, because you will find spaces and areas where you can play the way we want to play, also against Miami.
It seems like that would be critical for anyone playing against Messi. I always think maybe his teammates as well. You know, he's got to. They need to perform for him, and sometimes there might be some trepidation. But I think what happens there, Matty, is he finds out. I think he weeds out the players on his team that can't handle the pressure of playing with him, and then finds the guys that can. But how about the opponents?
Look, I think the Messi is an absolute genius. But yes, the opponents, it's all about, I don't think that NYCFC are going to man-mark Lionel Messi. Man-marking Lionel Messi has been tried before. If you're going to man-mark him, you would have to man-mark him with Tavon Gray or Justin Hack. They are the only two players who are up to it. So what you have to do is prevent him having space, Glenn. And I think we saw that last season when James Sands, and I think it was Keaton Parks, played up against him. Obviously, Messi was just behind them slightly, but they always played a little bit on the half turn, and they prevented not only service into him, but him being able to pick the ball up in space, Glenn. And that hasn't happened this season for me. When it's been 11 against 11, Inter Miami are 5-0 up against NYCFC. The only goals that NYCFC have scored against Inter Miami are when they've had 10 men on the field, when after Aviles got sent off in that first game. So I think it's absolutely imperative for O'Neill and Shaw, who we think will probably be playing in the middle of midfield. There's lots of different connotations how the starting lineup could be situated, laid out, but I think it'll be Shaw and O'Neill. They've always got to play on the half turn, and they cannot let Messi just pick the ball up easily facing the goal as well. He can't play with his back to goal as well, Lionel Messi. Not many people can. You cannot have him with space, facing your goal. Then you're in absolute trouble, because he can either shoot or he will pick a pass, and he can unlock any defence anywhere in the world. With all due respect, let alone, regardless of the fact this is NYCFC, this is not PSG, this is not Real Madrid, this is not Manchester City. Yeah. He can pick a pass and unlock a defence.
I'm considering the lineup here, and Kevin O'Toole has been an interesting figure this year. Left back, left wing back. We saw him play in the midfield in the most recent match, and you suspect he'll be a left wing, which occurred once earlier this season as well, and he'll play in front of Raul Gustavo. Justin Hack is going to stay in the central of defense, no question about it. So that's what you anticipate.
I would have thought so. I don't see this lineup being a back three, which it could easily be. Three centre-halves. It could easily be Gustavo, Hack and Martins. But I think your point, I think you made it really well in the last game. Pascal Janssen loves Martins and Justin Hack together. And I think, and I hope I'm not shooting myself in the foot here, because with them changing. I think he will do anything in his power to keep those two together.
Yeah, I think.
And
the proof of that was putting O'Toole in the midfield with Johnny Shore against Philadelphia.
And look at the line; it can only be O'Neill and Shaw. They'll be having a little smooch in the centre circle together. They'll be keeping very tight, keeping very close together, not letting Messi get in between them. So that for me leaves. There's only one place for O'Toole to play, Glenn. It's just the powers of elimination, if you will. I think he will play up ahead of Gustavo.
We have some conditions here as well. You can see my hair is all ruffled here. Of course, yours is combed. The coif is perfect.
Mine is gelled perfectly, cemented perfectly into place.
Yeah, and we're coming from at our hotel. There has been a bodybuilding competition, so I hope that the New York City players don't have some sort of inferiority complex that they've developed in the last 48 hours hanging out with all the bodybuilders. Just for the record, by the way, a couple of times I was walking around the hotel and I was pointed towards the registration area, just so you know, Matty. And just in case you're wondering how we all fit in there. And so Eastern Conference semifinal is going to be on the New York City FC Radio Network, both the English and Spanish radio commentary. That's nycfc.com/radio. We'll begin that at 5:45 Eastern with a kickoff set for 6:15 p.m. So we mentioned Kevin O'Toole. We played Pascal Janssen a moment ago regarding Miami and that 4-0 defeat the last time that they played. Here's Kevin O'Toole addressing that earlier in the week.
We probably gave them too much respect in that game and maybe sat off them a bit too much or shied away from kind of playing our possessive style of play. And I think we just need to get back to what we know that we're good at, kind of rely on the foundation that we've built throughout the year and execute our game plan versus kind of, I guess, like wilting to theirs. That's the best way I can put it, is just impose ourselves on the game. And, if we do that and we still come up short, so be it. But we have to go out there and execute our game plan to the best of our ability, and that'll give us the best chance possible.
And there you have it, Kevin O'Toole saying maybe, and that's another pitfall, right? Giving them too much respect. And Pascal also probably should have played those particular clips in reverse order, because Pascal referred to Kevin in his Miami diatribe just a little bit earlier.
I think it's very hard not to give players like Busquets, Alba and Messi that respect when some of these kids, and Johnny Shaw being a kid, has been watching them for the last decade, winning trophies all the way around. So it is hard. But what you've got to do is you've got to lose that inferiority complex. You are as good as those players today because you're playing up against them. You've got to have every belief in yourself, and you've not got to be afraid to give Messi a kick, not to give Busquets a kick. I think I said it in the last game. There was one point when Andres Pereira let Busquets do one pirouette one way and then pirouette back the other way.
I remember that.
And I said that Andres Pereira, I know, would have just gone through. If that hadn't have been Busquets, if that had been somebody else, he would have just gone through them. And he stood off and he was a little bit tentative. I realize he's not.
That was a moment. That was a seminal moment for that game to relate to what those two both said. Although New York City still, remember Nico Fernandez-Burcal cut against the grain against Maxi Falcone at the back, and it was just him and the keeper, and he missed the target. That's 1-0 right there. And again, does the game change?
Yeah,
you never know, right?
And the game would have changed, absolutely. But I think for me, up and in their face, and I think that's what Sands and Parks did last season. Denied space and denied service into Messi. And for you to be able to win against Inter Miami, you have to do both of those things. This is not just a one-man team, but it is as near as damn it, Glenn. It is as near as damn it. When Lionel Messi is on form, this is a one-man team. Deny service, deny space, deny him time on the ball when he's facing your goal.
I want to play a Tavon Gray clip here. I spoke to Tavon one-on-one during the week, and this is in reference to the goal against Philadelphia, which got New York City to this point. And it really started with Kevin O'Toole recovering, Johnny Shore getting a pass, and then it goes out to Tavon Gray on the right. I want you to listen closely to his description of how it all happened, and his diagnosis of this, when you think back, is really critical to the outcome of the play. Here's Tavon Gray.
To be fair, their pressure on their left side was a little late, so I realized that early on in the game. I caught them in a few one-touch passes, but since I was doing so many one-touches, I said this time I'm going to switch it up. So the player had he had ran too much to my right, so I went to my left. And then Algo was in so much space because the left back was pressing me. I believe it was Wagner. He was pressing me, and I saw Algo in the space, and Ojeda in space. That's his bread and butter. So, and make things better, he got the mag. I was like, ooh. Then he passed it to Nico, and Nico soft lay off to Maxi. Their chemistry is untouchable. But yeah, and Maxi finished.
Well, the thing you said there that I'd like to address a little further is you're recognizing that the defender was overplaying you because you were playing the ball into that channel before. Mm-hmm. So just to be able to see that, we talked about 2021. Maybe back then you weren't seeing things like that.
Definitely not. Definitely not.
So how has that developed?
I'm going to say film, training, and definitely just getting games under my belt, playing with guys like Maxi. I feel like he's taught me a lot of different patterns when it comes to playing, just in general, especially the style we play here. I think he very much like dissects everything in the game, to be fair. Makes it quite easy. Like, we'll literally have a chat. I don't know, the ball goes out of bounds and he'll just tell me something and I'll be like, all right, I got it. Whether
you're talking about in the game, yeah.
Ball can go out and he'll just tell me, hey, next play, do this, that, and I got it right there. So, and it obviously works for me. So, if I fix it, if it's not broken, I stick to it and just follow.
So a lot going on in that minute and 50 seconds with Tavon Gray. The tail end of it is vital to understand the importance of Maxi Morales on the pitch. And as I said earlier in the week on my podcast with Roberto Abramowitz on the Spanish commentary side, NYCFC Views Live, I thought that, Maxi, and recall that Maxi was very much into the ear of Tati Castellanos in his early days to make sure, because Tati would turn off. Also, he would disappear for moments of the game, and it was Maxi Morales who would bring him back. And it sounds like he's tutoring in a similar fashion with Tavon.
Yeah, Maxi Morales is a talker, not a screamer. Somebody like John Terry was a screamer. Back in his Chelsea days, he was screaming and pulling everybody into position. Maxi Morales, as Tavon said there, he is somebody who has a little whisper in your ear almost when the ball's out of play. It's not in-game so much, it's when the ball is out of play and he's having a little word and said, right, I was here, and he's talking his teammates through the game. And I think especially on a night like tonight when you're playing against formidable opposition who are very cute, very smart in the footballing sense, the likes of Messi and Busquets and Alba, they see things that other players don't see. But Maxi Morales sees the game in a similar manner to them, so he can talk his players through the game. Of course, Maxi's ability is very, very important, but I think more his knowledge, his nous, and just his experience is absolutely paramount tonight for this team to play well, that being NYCFC. He needs to guide and lead the team through this game.
And then in the early portion of the comment from Tavon Gray, first of all, he enjoyed the meg by Ojeda. That was obvious. But the fact that he recognized after several plays on his side of the field that the defender was overplaying him so he couldn't play it down the channel, and he elected to drive the ball centrally. And that's what caused Kai Wagner to step to him. And then Macania had to come out and defend Ojeda after he made the pass there. So it was a very, very smart soccer play by Gray. And you heard him admit also that 4 years ago, there's no way he would have recognized that.
Well, absolutely. You say it to him and you kind of lead him into in 2021, you may not have seen this. And I give Tavon full credit because he could have bitten your head off and said, no, I would have seen that in 2021 as well.
Yeah.
But he admits to it. He's a little bit self-deprecating and says absolutely right. And that's when he then goes on to credit himself, the coaching staff, and then players like Maxi Morales who have aided him through the progression of his career. And he's still a relatively young man in terms of his career. He hasn't peaked yet by a long way. So he's got a lot to learn. I don't think he's as quick a learner, Tavon, as somebody like a Maxi Morales, but it is slowly but surely sinking in, and he's becoming a better footballer. There's never any doubt about how good a defender he was. We've always said that. When he was 18, 19, 20, he was a wonderful defender, specifically one-on-one defender. But now he's growing into being a little bit of a technically more gifted player, which with all due respect isn't that hard for him to be growing in terms of that. The ball is now becoming his friend. I used to say it sometimes a little bit jokingly when he was 19, 20. The ball's just not his friend. It just gets away from him too much. But now he's learning to get it under control, and he's learning his limitations as well, which I think is another really important thing. You barely see him trying to hit 50-yard diagonals because that's not his bread and butter. His bread and butter is keeping the ball, little 5 and 10-yard passes, as that little drive inside and left-footed pass into the path of Ojeda was for that wonderful goal, the match winner, of course.
Which, by the way, was the 600th goal in New York City FC history. So a little landmark goal. And then for Maxi Morales, what he's done against Philadelphia, 4 playoff games against the Union. Maxi has scored a single goal in each of them, and this being the game winner and other critical ones along the way as well. He leads New York City all-time with 6 goals and 7 assists, so both figures are tops for New York City. That was his 22nd, and he's in the starting lineup. So this will be his 23rd playoff game, which is also a club record. And he's the oldest player to do just about everything in the playoffs. So I'm not going to go through all that, but he went past Pirlo and Lampard in those categories as well at the age of 38 plus. And there was one other. Oh, I wanted to just ask you about this, Matty. The referee tonight is John Freeman. Now, what I want to ask is that this is his 5th game for New York City FC this year, and it'll be his 2nd playoff game with City. He did game 1 of the Charlotte series, which New York City won on the Alonso Martinez goal. Martinez unavailable. He's out for the remainder of the season and for a good portion of next season with the ACL, which there'll be surgery performed in early December by Alonso. But also in that game, and I just want to ask you this, New York City, they were administered 11 yellow cards, none to Charlotte, and just 3 games later, he's refereeing another game for New York City in the playoffs. I found it odd. Maybe it's not. Maybe he just rates higher than the other officials, and this is just the way it's worked out. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you need a very strong referee. Yes, do I want John Freeman in charge? No, but it's not my choice. I think the same as we talk about.
I was thinking Drew Fisher, Chris Penso
absolutely.
For a game like this.
If we talk about players giving the opposition too much respect, I worry about the referees, and a referee like John Freeman giving the opposition players, being Messi, Busquets, and Alba, who try and referee the game. Suarez, if he comes on, Suarez and Mascherano will try and referee the game on the sidelines until if Suarez comes on. You cannot let those guys intimidate you, and they will try and intimidate you. And we'll see, Glenn. Time will tell, but I'm a little bit worried that John Freeman may bow down to the greatness of Messi, Busquets, and Alba. Hopefully I'm wrong.
No changes in the Inter Miami lineup, which would make sense coming off a 4-0 win at FC Cincinnati. And just one change for New York City. Aiden O'Neill back in for Hannes Wolf, which we suspect will mean that Kevin O'Toole will become the left winger in place of Hannes Wolf. That remains to be seen. We'll get a close-up look at it very shortly. As you can see, we're at Chase Stadium in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And the New York City supporters, and we see them now filing in. They're in the upper right corner to us. I apologize for steering our my iPhone 16 Pro camera to the left, where you see the Miami supporters. But it's a good turnout for New York City FC. And what was interesting, Matty, in talking to the staff, bumped into a lot of them at the hotel in the last couple of days, just talking about Philadelphia. And Leon Hapgood, for instance, an Englishman who said I felt like I was home, meaning England, for that game because of the atmosphere. And also how the road support responded, reacted, and sounded. And he said he hadn't been at a New York City game that had that sort of road support vigor, I guess is the best way to put it.
He's absolutely right. And we understand that with the geography of the country. And it's very rare that you get a big game close enough that there's that many supporters that they can be heard. Of course, we've heard them on Hudson River Derby games. We've heard the support.
Right.
But apart from that, you rarely do. But I think you will hear them a little bit today as well. And it's hard to be an away supporter in the United States of America because of the vast geography of it. And I certainly, it's not a detrimental thing to be saying to any opposition fans that they're not travelling. If they're on the East Coast, they're not travelling out west and making their voices heard. It's very, very difficult. But yes, I think we will hear some NYCFC fans today.
So we know that Alonso Martinez, Andres Perea, and then for the Philadelphia game, Aid O'Neill was suspended. And you want to hear Tavon Gray tell us what he thinks about being the underdog?
Of course.
All right. Yeah. This is what Tavon thinks about being the underdog.
I really didn't like the whole underdog talk. This is unacceptable. I don't think we never had this culture here. We would never say that we're underdogs. This is, I don't know who brought that up, but at the end of the day, we have a roster full of guys that can get the job done. I think we do our best every day, make sure we're prepared for these type of moments. And obviously, we're going to play as hard as we can for one of our brothers goes down. That even gives us more motivation.
And there you have it. Tavon doesn't like being the underdog and doesn't feel that that's a deserved title, but this is a tough one today. There's little question about it, and you know that Miami is favored, and I don't know anything about what the odds are, but this is a team that scores frequently. How about 28 goals in their last 8 games, the end of the regular season, and their postseason results? 28 goals in 8 games. But New York City, with 3 clean sheets out of the 4 games and just a 1-0 defeat to Charlotte in their 4 playoff games, Matt Freese has surpassed Sean Johnson for clean sheets in the playoffs in New York City club history. So you've got a couple of things at work here.
Yeah, look, whether it's in the playoffs or whether it's in the regular season, Inter Miami averaged over 2.5 goals per game. They scored 81 in 34 goals in 34 games in the league. They know how to score goals. I think to stand a chance of beating Inter Miami, you have to limit them to scoring 1 goal.
How many do you need?
You have to limit them to scoring 1 goal.
All right.
I really do.
Okay. So if New York City scores 2, they've got a chance.
They've got a chance.
That's what you're saying.
Yes, I am.
And then, of course, there's extra time in PKs as a possibility. The penalty kick shootout, we've avoided that. Most recently, the last one was game 2 of the Charlotte series, 0-0. And it was Charlotte forcing the game 3 and going back home where, again, they were the favorite there, but New York City came through 3-1. What will happen tonight at Chase Stadium? Who knows? But we're going to bring it to you on the New York City FC Radio Network. You're going to have to sync it manually with Apple TV in order to listen to your hometown commentary on the New York City at Inter Miami Eastern Conference semifinal. I hope you'll do that. Either way, enjoy the game, everybody. Thanks so much for being with us here on NYCFC Pregame Live.